Could Russia be inching towards a fascist state? This query may seem bold, but is it really? To understand this, we first need to grasp the key elements that define a fascist state. These include dictatorial power, where a single leader has absolute control; forcible suppression of opposition, where any dissent is met with harsh punishments; and strong regimentation of society and the economy, where the state controls every aspect of life. Now, consider this. Are we witnessing signs of these characteristics in Russia today? Let's delve into the evidence that suggests Russia might be showing signs of these characteristics. The first sign of this shift, the suppression of opposition, became evident with the crackdown on civil society and the imprisonment of political opponents. Let's first focus on the imprisonment of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Navalny, a resilient figure, has long been a thorn in the side of the Russian government. His vision of a future Russia without President Vladimir Putin has been persistently overshadowed by Putin's repressive regime. The imprisonment of Navalny was a clear message to the opposition: dissent will not be tolerated. This act sent shockwaves through the political landscape, causing ripples of fear and uncertainty among those who dared to challenge the status quo. But it wasn't just Navalny. The crackdown extended beyond him, reaching into the fabric of civil society. Putin's government has taken coordinated steps to stifle any forms of opposition. The space for free speech, for protest, for opposition has been shrinking, with voices of dissent being gradually silenced. This has been a systematic and orchestrated move to suppress civil society, to control the narrative, and to ensure absolute power remains in the hands of the few. This brings us to the military aggression in Ukraine. Military might is often used by authoritarian regimes to assert dominance, to instill fear, and to divert attention from domestic issues. In the case of Russia, the invasion of Ukraine, a sovereign nation, is a blatant display of such aggression. This move not only destabilizes the region, but also sends a powerful message to the international community. Russia is not afraid to flex its military muscles. The strategy here is twofold. Domestically, it serves to rally support, to unite the people under the banner of patriotism. Internationally, it's a show of strength, a demonstration of Russia's military capabilities, and a clear signal of its willingness to breach international law. These actions, the suppression of dissent, the crackdown on civil society, the imprisonment of political opponents, and the military aggression against a neighboring nation, are not random or isolated incidents. They are calculated moves designed to consolidate power and control. They are tactics employed by a regime that is increasingly showing signs of fascism. These actions are reminiscent of the dictatorial power often seen in fascist regimes. The second sign of a shift towards fascism is Russia's military aggression. The recent activities in Ukraine paint a clear picture of this. Russia's military strategy in Ukraine has taken a turn towards a war of attrition, heavily relying on sheer numbers and resources. The objective is simple and brutal: to wear down the enemy to the point of collapse due to continuous losses in personnel and material. This strategy, however, may face challenges with the involvement of Western allies supplying tanks to Ukraine. In the midst of this aggression, the involvement of the private military company, Wagner Group, has come to light. The Wagner Group, associated with oligarch Yevgeny Prigozhin, a figure gaining considerable influence, is reported to be involved in Ukraine. This paramilitary outfit has been linked to a series of brutal tactics and even the recruitment of prisoners, a practice that harkens back to some of the darkest days of Soviet history. This use of private military companies provides plausible deniability, a key characteristic of hybrid warfare, which is a blend of conventional, irregular, and cyber warfare with other influencing methods, such as fake news and lawfare. The parallels drawn to Soviet history are striking. The use of overwhelming force, the reliance on groups like the Wagner Group, and the tactics employed all echo the strategies of a bygone era. But it's not just about the past. It's about what this indicates for the future. It's about the regimentation of society and the economy, the control exerted over all aspects of life, and the suppression of individual freedoms. This showcases the strong regimentation of society and the economy, another indicator of fascism. The implications of this shift are profound and far-reaching. affecting not just Russia, but the global community at large. As we continue to observe Russia's actions and their impact, it's critical to understand the historical patterns and potential future trajectories in play. The third sign of a shift towards fascism is the power struggles within Russia's elite circles. Within these circles, a significant figure has emerged as a potential rival to President Putin. This figure is none other than oligarch Yevgeny Prigozhin. Known for his association with the Wagner Group, a private military company whose involvement in Ukraine has drawn parallels to Soviet history, Prigozhin has managed to gain substantial influence. His rise to power has not been without controversy, with reports of brutal tactics and the recruitment of prisoners. But what does Prigozhin's gain in influence signify? It suggests a potential power struggle, a struggle that is not fought on the streets with protests and rallies, but within the opulent walls where Russia's most powerful individuals convene. It's a struggle that could determine the future direction of Russia, shaping its policies, both domestic and foreign. Yet it is not merely Prigozhin's rise that signals a power struggle. It is the nature of this struggle. It's a fight for control, for dominance, and for power. In the face of opposition and international scrutiny, Putin's regime has demonstrated a willingness to crack down on dissent, imprison political opponents, and reassert Russia's position on the world stage. All these are hallmarks of a power struggle, indicative of a shift towards fascism. But why does this matter? Power struggles, especially those within the elite circles, are a common feature of emerging fascist states. They represent a battle for the soul of a nation, a contest between different visions of the future. They are the silent wars that shape the destiny of countries. In Russia's case, these power struggles are happening amidst a backdrop of military aggression, societal repression, and international interference. It's a volatile mix that could potentially tip the balance towards fascism. But for now, the power struggles continue, the outcome uncertain. These power struggles are typical of the transition towards a fascist state. The fourth sign of a shift towards fascism is Russia's efforts to destabilize other countries. This international interference is a strategy not unfamiliar to those who study authoritarian regimes, and it's one that's been clearly employed by Russia in recent years. Let's turn our attention to the United States, a nation that has been at the receiving end of Russia's alleged interference tactics. It's been suggested that Russian actors have attempted to meddle in the democratic process, specifically during the US elections. This isn't just a violation of sovereignty, it's a direct attack on one of the most fundamental aspects of a democratic society, the right to free and fair elections. Now let's journey to Ukraine, a country that's been in Russia's crosshairs for quite some time. Russia has been accused of launching disinformation campaigns with the aim of undermining Ukraine's image both domestically and on the international stage. The intention to weaken Ukraine's international standing and make it easier for Russia to exert control. And it doesn't stop there. The annexation of Crimea in 2014 was a blatant display of Russia's territorial ambitions. This was not just a land grab, but a calculated move to destabilize Ukraine and assert Russia's power in the region. Recently, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken issued a stark warning. He suggested that Russia is planning to destabilize Ukraine from within, sparking fears of a potential coup. This further illustrates Russia's willingness to interfere in the affairs of other nations to achieve its own objectives. So what does all this mean? It means that Russia's actions align with one of the key hallmarks of fascist regimes, the propensity to destabilize and control other nations. It's a pattern of behavior that's deeply concerning and one that warrants close attention from the global community. This interference is another hallmark of fascist regimes. To summarize, there are clear signs that Russia is showing characteristics of a fascist state. We've discussed various aspects that support this claim. Firstly, we've seen the suppression of opposition in Russia. The vision of a future Russia without President Vladimir Putin has been overshadowed by Putin's repressive regime. The government has cracked down on civil society, imprisoning political opponents and trying to reassert Russia as an empire. Next, we've observed the military aggression. The Russian military strategy has shifted towards a war of attrition, relying on superior numbers and resources. The involvement of Western allies in supplying tanks to Ukraine may challenge Russia's strategy. The use of private military company Wagner Group in Ukraine has drawn parallels to Soviet history, with the reports of brutal tactics and recruitment of prisoners. Furthermore, we've highlighted the power struggles within Russia. Speculation is rife about potential new waves of mobilization and elite competition within Russia. Oligarch Yevgeny Prigozhin, associated with Wagner, has gained influence and is seen as a potential rival to Putin. And lastly, we've seen the international interference by Russia. The West, including the US and NATO, has cautioned Russia against military actions, while Putin blames NATO for escalating tensions and threatens severe consequences. Putin's efforts to weaken Ukraine's international standing include allegations of interference in US elections. These are all signs that Russia might be inching towards a fascist state. But, as always, only time will tell.